Hello, I am Melissa King, and for month 3, session 2, we will look at tools for supporting student creativity. I am currently an instructional coach as well as a consultant for Designed for Learning. To access this presentation, you can simply type this shortened link into your web browser. One way to get really creative with students is in their writing. Let me just show you a few examples of ways that just using a tool like Google Slides can be a creative output for students. For example, Google Slides can act as a continued journal for something like Genius Hour or a science project. This way, students can even insert videos that they create onto their journal and images on Google Slides. This can become a very interactive notebook. Another way is to use Google Slides as sort of a newsletter. So writing can take the form of a newsletter or a newspaper even, instead of just like a Google Docs where they write. On another link on that slide, you'll see examples of student books made into ebooks. The nice thing about these is that you can format them however you would want, making them look very awesome, as you can see. And this post actually has links that you can take at the end of the post. So I put it here so you can click to use it for your own. One thing that you will notice is that these slideshows look a little bit different than our typical Google Slides. How did they get them there? Well, let me show you. If you go to File, Page Setup, you can change the page from being that widescreen view into a custom view. So instead of this 10 by 5 something, I am going to change it to 11 by 8.5, which is a size of a regular piece of paper. Now I have kind of a longer book, or I can go to File, Page Setup, and if I flip those two numbers around, it turns the other way. So you can do this to make your slide as you are creating, depending on what you're creating and what size you would like. To set up your page, let me get rid of these text boxes here. And to set up your page, you might do something like Insert, Word Art, and put the title of the writing, which I spelled wrong. You know what I mean, so it's okay. And of course, you can change fonts and everything on this as well. You can set up a place where you want to have maybe a picture or an illustration. Remember, students can insert images. So if I wanted them to put a picture here that they drew, and that's sort of a space filler, after they draw something, they can take a picture on their device and they can go to Insert Image, and they can actually use the camera. If you use the camera, you can take a picture of your own drawing and put it on this slide. Of course, you can search the web and upload something that you already have on your computer too, but that feature of using the camera allows students to really be able to be artistic on paper still and digitally publish a book. I just grabbed a text box, so maybe I have some writing that will be here, and maybe I grab another text box and have some writing that will be here. So I have it set up for students, and maybe I set up a few pages and assign this to them on Google Classroom. The thing that you can do to actually export this and save it in different ways, of course, you can go to Share and share it a number of ways with the link. You can also, though, go to File And you're able to download this slideshow of whatever writing that they create into a PDF, which then you can print, bind, staple, whatever that you want to do for the purpose of that creation. There are other things that you can do with Google Slides. Here's an example of a story that a student created. And this is a Google slide. We're in the preview version of it. And as you read, once upon a time there lived a little girl, and as you click, the story actually moves, which this actually took some creative and critical thinking to create a moving story. And I'm going to show you kind of how this was done. So the behind the scenes work is that if you insert an image, so I'm going to upload from the computer. Whoops, not from the computer. Let's do insert image, search the web. Let me just get a picture of a duck, for example. And if you grab an image, you can add animation. So if I want this duck to not be on the page at first, I am going to go over to Insert, when clicked on that duck, Animation. And I can choose to have this duck fly in and fly out. And I'm going to have it fly in from the right. And I can also change how fast I want it to move. And I'm going to hit play now. So on my click, the duck comes into the scene. And I can have multiple objects flying in. So that's just using animation to tell the story. You can also animate your text boxes so you can have your words flying in. If I insert a shape, like if two characters are speaking, then I can have this fly in as well by adding an animation. So because I'm clicked on it, I'm going to go to Insert, Animation, and I'm able to have this. Let's see, we'll spin it in. So now let's play our slide and see what it looks like. There we go. So if students learn how to do this animation piece, they can have words flying in or sliding in or appearing as they go and build their slides. Then when you're in the slideshow present mode, someone can read your story and it will be very engaging and interactive. Here's another example of what an animate slideshow might look like. And this is kind of a tutorial of how to find area. So you can use this animation piece to have things appear so that way it tells a story and students can almost make a how-to, or it could be a creative story or the process of their science project. So a number of things that you can use that feature for. Now, to get this to play automatically, because right now I'm not clicking, what you have to do, let me just duplicate my slide here and I'll change something so you know that it's changing. You would go to File, and you're going to be able to have students actually publish this to the web by going to Share, Publish to the web. So if I want it to move, let's say every 5 seconds, 10 seconds, there's all kinds of choices. 3 is the default. And I want to start as soon as it loads, and restart is an option as well if you want it to restart or you just want it to end. Once you hit publish, this link right here can be copied, and I will put it in my Omnibox. When we arrive here, this starts playing, and every 3 seconds there's movement because I set it to 3 seconds. So the slide basically changes every 3 seconds. So if that was a whole story, that's how that would work, is you just use this publish to the web by going to File, Share, Publish to the web. Take a few minutes to pause and play to learn on your own. Another way to be creative in the classroom is to use Google Drawings. Now, we can use this to do something like a graphic organizer, but as we allow students to be creative and show what they know, I wanted to show you some examples of some Google Drawings projects. This is a Google Drawing checkerboard. So using a Google Drawing, students can add shapes that become movable, and they could engineer their own game boards. These are just shapes, a table, maybe some clip arts for some playing pieces. A lot of the things on slides and Google Drawings are the same as far as inserting shapes, inserting images, text boxes, tables. And this Google Drawings then is a game. This one was made by Eric Kurtz, and I'm going to share some more of his examples. Here's a greeting card template. So there's instructions, and students can write a friendly letter, and maybe this can be printed and folded into a greeting card. There's instructions in each box of what to do. And at the end, this one and this one need to be rotated to be upside down. And the directions tell you that here and here, so that when you print it, it's right. So this is a template you can make a copy of and use with students. He also has examples of how to use things like telling time, clocks in Google Drawings, because then when you just rotate, the students can show the time. But let's talk a little bit about what students can create. So maybe more of the poster idea, but perhaps even better than a poster, and this can get very creative. These are parts of a flower. This is a Google Drawing that is published to the web. And when you come to learn about the parts of a flower, if you click on the camera, it zooms you into this part of the flower, and there's an image that shows you what that part of the flower looks like up close. When you click here, it's a link. So it's about the petal piece of the flower, and it takes you to a link. This part of the flower has a Google Doc attached to it with some information. This one has a video, takes you out to a video about that part of the flower, and so does this one. So how do we make this happen? Say students are learning a science topic and you want them to creatively show what they know, or maybe each group has a different topic that they're going to teach about. So we start with a blank Google Drawing, and we would insert an image. So I can search the web, and I can find something like flower. Once I have one that I like, I'm going to go with a colorful one. Now from here, I want to add some links to the pieces of the flowers. So I might put in some shapes of some arrows pointing to certain parts, and then put in some links like we saw before. So I can do the arrow, I can get a text box, and I can type the term. This is useful in so many ways. I'm just showing you this one as an example. Now, how did they put the link in? So if I go to Insert Image and I search the web for a link icon, I'm just going to get an icon that's a link. Maybe we'll go with this one. That way, it becomes a little link that you can click on. So the way to make this clickable is to make sure you have it selected. You can go to Insert, and right down here, it says Link. And you would put the link to where you want them to go. So if I have a Google Doc or I just have information about a pedal that I found useful. And again, I would probably have my students make their own on a Google Doc. I really like that because they're creating it all instead of just kind of taking things from the internet, but it really depends on what you're doing. So now that's linked. I can do the same thing with a video about photosynthesis and put this on here. We're just going to insert image. And this time I want a video icon. And then I can choose to put a video icon of my selection. We'll just do this one. Now, if your kids are younger and you find them able to do some pieces of this, but you think finding the icon could be a little tricky for them, what you could do is you can have some of these on the side and you can say, I want you to design 2 links, find one video, and then use these arrows. And I can put multiple arrows over here. And I want you to label the parts, and I could even put the words on the side so they're sort of off the page. So that way, if they're not able to start from nothing, they can just click and drag their pieces and add things that way. So you can have them labeling like this or creatively creating with a setup that you already have for them, because you can assign this to them, how not just being a blank slate. You can actually have some things on the side ready to go for them. So that way they're being creative in their original in their work, but they're still able to pull from these resources on the sides. So the same way for the video, if I wanted to link a video, I just make sure that I have that icon, insert, and then I can go to the link again. And from here, I can put the link to the YouTube video or the video that a student created if they have one on their drive, perhaps. And that is how you make a Google drawing become an interactive sort of poster, but something that comes off the page. And then, of course, they can collaborate because they can go to share and they can share with people who they want to work on this with. A little trick for viewing this would be when you get your link. I'm going to copy my link to this. I also want to make sure anyone can see this. When you open a new tab, when you type in your new, when you type in your web address, you can take off everything right here from edit and on and make it say preview instead. And then it will give you a nice preview of your Google drawing that's interactive. So from here, I can click and utilize this in this view, and it just looks a little bit nicer. If you look on this slide, there's a website link with a blog post to how to make this work as well. And it will open up for you Eric Kurtz's Control-Alt-Achieve website, where he houses all sorts of different ideas for using Google Drawings in your classroom with blog posts and templates and videos that you can refer to. Other ideas could be, if you are in upper grades, perhaps having a comparison of 2 different historical events or people and sort of making these infographics. Here is one that's called Ancient Rome by the Numbers. And so you use numbers to talk about a thing or a person or a place. And this is also done on a Google drawing. And I've seen it done where it's all about me in numbers. And so it looks like a nice infographic with numbers. More on Google Drawings is here if you click on this picture, and it takes you to another website that's wonderful. So when you stop to play and learn There are all kinds of other Google Drawing activities that are done by teachers and featured on Ditch That Textbooks website, as well as some posts that you'll see of teachers and what they were doing in their classes with Google Drawing. Take a moment to pause and play. Try out how this could be used in your classroom. Lastly, we're going to talk about an easy video creation tool and some ideas that you can use to have your students be creative as they learn. There are some different options on here. One way is to use something called Screencastify, which is how we record our screen, which is what I'm doing right now. This is an extension, and there's a free version, so that is this icon here. Another way is just to go to an online voice recorder and have your students just record their voice. No video required. Once they record their voice, maybe of them reading their writing or doing a small podcast episode or interview, and they hit stop, they can save this to their computers and turn it in or do whatever it is that your creative class is doing. But the idea that I'd like to go over with you is the idea of using Flipgrid. Flipgrid is now actually called just Flip, and it is flip.com. If you have not signed up, you're going to want to sign up, and it is free. You will, once that you have your account and log in, be able to make a class. When you make a class, it's actually called a group. For example, one of my classes or groups is called Mrs. King's Kids. On the view of your class, you have the ability to add several different topics. And think of the topics as almost like assignments, different questions, different tasks. You'll see under here, this is one task where it's called Flip Hunt for area and perimeter. This is one, and it's called Sue Store. This one is Read Globally. This one is Taking Kindness to Heart. So they are all scheduled assignments. So it's sort of like Google Classroom or Seesaw. And this is safe for kids. It defaults to private when you're in the classroom as the teacher. It syncs to Google. So you have the ability to add students to your group. And then students just simply record videos to answer questions. So if I go in here to the Flip Hunt for area and perimeter, you're going to see my instructions. And there's right here a Google Doc that I attached with sort of a rubric and instructions. I chose this GIF, and you can put whatever picture. It can be a picture of a thinking map or an item that has to do with your learning. When students come here to do their work, they will add to this topic by making a video. So here's another example, and this one is finding arrays. And so when they were at home, I had them find arrays in their classroom or in their home. So they held up arrays. This is my example of finding an array in my son's room. And I had to explain what the answer to this array would be if it were a word problem. So my students creatively were doing math through this topic. Ways to have them do this, to be creative on their own with other things, would be completely optional to you. There's so many things you can do with video. In my class, we have used this, and students have recorded themselves doing something like puppet shows. So this is a puppet show. This one was actually created on during distance learning. And so students made their own backgrounds. They had the chance to make some popsicle stick characters or sock puppets or paper bag puppets, whatever that they preferred. And you'll see that there is an actual puppet show happening that this student did. But first, they wrote a script. And this was a writing piece. But then they had the ability to be creative and record these. What we did with these is something that you could easily do. We took all of our puppet shows and we had a popcorn viewing day and we gave each other feedback on our puppet show. So this is a super creativity or high creativity lesson. There was writing tied to it, but it was presented in a completely different way as a final product. And the possibilities with using Flipgrid this way are completely endless, as I said. So just so that you know, to add a group, you would just add a group. And if you choose that it's a classroom, you would just walk through the steps and create your classroom. If I click on the share button, you can use the code. You can say anyone with the link or only people you approve. And there's more invite options. So here is the Google Classroom way or the email way, or you can add their usernames yourself. And then once students are here, you just start adding topics. When you add topics, these are your assignments. When you create them, then the students will see them underneath your group. Think of it like your classroom view. And you can actually set how long you want the recordings to be, and you can set, you can attach rubrics, and you can attach links and pictures. And so you really give them a good starting point, and then they just hit record. What they do is they upload what they're saying in here. Let me actually go to the view that the kids see. So they get to go and watch each other's videos. And then once that they watch each other's video responses, then they can even hit add a video comment, and they can comment on what they just watched. You as a teacher are able to see these and give feedback as well. Go ahead and explore flip.com. There are many tutorial videos on how to use it, but most of all, think about how you might use this for your students' creativity in your classroom. Thank you for joining Month 3 Asynchronous Sessions. It is so exciting to know that your students will be able to move further along in their creativity.